Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? I can't do it. No way. Things are going great. We're going to have a fun time this morning. A lot happening in the world. We have the latest from the folks over at Promethean Action. We got all kinds of Mark Carney content today. We love Mark Carney, the greatest prime minister in the history of Canada and the last prime minister in the history of Canada. So I'll give you a bit of a teaser today on other stuff we'll cover tomorrow on the Canada show, although maybe not a Canada show. I heard Dave can't make it tomorrow this morning, so we'll find out, all of you. But let's see what folks are saying in the chat before we get started today. Good morning, gang. Excellent day to buy Bitcoin and stay humble. Thanks for showing up, y'all. Thanks, JJ Fox, for showing up. Good morning, Vietnam, says John C919. Here we are. Finally, some sun in Colorado Springs to recharge my Meshcore repeaters. There you go. We got some sun here today, too. That's why my blind is down, keeping the heat down. Let me see what happens when I bring it up. Yeah, pretty bright. Well, not so bad, huh? Not so bad, but a little too hot for me. I'm going to put it back down. That sun comes in hot off of the window for now. Anyway, I'll change it later. We got Lee J369. Good morning, Countdown crew. Tell us the news. You're going to love the news today. A lot of fun indeed. Chatelet Nerd, Chatelet Barely 45. I like the artwork today, says JJ Fox. Nice alliteration in your headline. We got the fake Fiat failing headline today, and the thumbnail for all those who haven't seen it, if you're tuning in directly from a Roxham TV channel where you don't see my AI artwork every day. It was supposed to be more royals. I don't know. They delivered me the Mad Hatter, and I liked it. So I didn't ask for the Mad Hatter look. I went with it, and then I did a face swap to make sure I had Mark Carney. And stupid Midjourney still will not give you like Trump's face or anything. Like I have to trick it to give Trump's face all the time. It's really annoying. I might quit Midjourney, even though it's quite good. I just never get what I'm getting. Wrong hole, Alice. Is that a Mad Hatter? Good morning. Thursday's our first stacking sat, says Seaburger17. Indeed. Jesus is King 0004. Good morning, crew. Best morning hangout spot. Help make my Mondays Fridays. Well, I appreciate it. Jesus is King. Good day, folks, says CB Van. How many shows focus on delusion? Scott Adams was, or you are now, the lone wolf, Nolan. Well, there's a lot of people like the delusion, but there's other people out there. We got some great Bitcoiners. If ever I do consume content, it'll often be of the Marty Bent variety. I still like Nick Carter when he writes. I don't fall for all of his stuff for sure, but I'm a fan. And I like Promethean Action stuff, but indeed I'm missing Scott Adams. I had a good catch up with Mike Cernovich when I was in Las Vegas about how we all miss Scott and how it's a real bummer. So there you go. Good morning, gang. So another virus just in time for the midterms. Yeah, we're going to talk about the virus. Guess we're going to be using mail-in ballots again. I'll tell you why that's not happening. Today. We're not buying it. FP article out on progressive/Bolsheviks can successfully tap into a distributed establishment of incredible funding. Plattner is the example. Wow, yeah, I didn't see that second. I sank on sank. Elbows up, retards, says Lee J369. Hey, only half the window view. Yeah, well, it's a little hot. It gets hot on my back. It gets hot. The sun comes right through, and I just get too hot if I sit here for the whole show, getting that heat on. And this way I got the door to the porch open. I got the window here open. I'm getting a nice current. I'm not going to overheat. It can get up to high 80s, 90s in here if I close the door and let the sun in, even on a cold day, even on a winter day. Believe it or not, we leave the condo here completely unheated all winter long. When we're down south, we just keep the window blinds up, and it gets plenty hot in here for the whole winter. So there you go. The Suntech roasts Nolan sometimes. Indeed, it does. Yeah. And the beef cartel, says Saguenay Sank on Sank. We're talking about the beef cartel on the show today. We got beef cartel content coming at you. We love beef cartel content. Are we going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole today? We go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole every single day, T-Dog. Yo, yo, yo. I'm not saying it's me, but I was heavily behind the constant reiteration of the Alice in Wonderland meme with Bitcoin. Probably every single headline and every single panel name and everything you heard about Alice in Wonderland that ever came out of CoinDesk between 2016 and 2020 somewhere was related to me. So I'm pushing that now towards Wizard of Oz, though. That's my next mission, to get Wizard of Oz synonymous with what we're doing. The Alice in Wonderland thing was great for the first era. We're in a new era now, so we need new children's literature that we can subvert and take over in order to spread our message. So we love the Alice in Wonderland stuff. In the end, the rabbit hole is really just like a reading list, right? So we're always on the reading list here on this show. So that is all it is. JJ Fox says, Nolan, you have a unique voice lens in the space. Very appreciative of you and the gang here. Well, I appreciate that, JJ Fox. I am appreciative of all of you guys who come and listen every morning. I really appreciate it. It would be a failure if you didn't come every day. And I love that you guys come every day. It was good and creepy. Just like all those sludge leaders we got. Yeah, there you go. We'll let you keep it down for now. There you go. The truth has always been told through pictures, images, and stories. Alice in Wonderland is a great lens. It sure is. Yeah, it sure is. I was always a big fan. I did a class when I was in Cégep, which is what we have. It's like a junior college. It's what we have here in Quebec. My Cégep was a beautiful campus not far from here. And I took a class on children's literature when I was at school there. And it really opened my eyes to a lot about how children's literature both became popular in the late 1800s, why it was popular, all the various socioeconomic reasons behind it, and as well as what the messages of the children's literature were all about. It brought a lot out for me. Lots of images can be made from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Aren't they coming out with a new fake and gay version of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe soon? I think they are. I think they're doing a stupid version of it, just like they have all the stupid versions. This Helen of Troy thing from Christopher Nolan. There's Helen. I'm going to go to war for her. I can't wait. That's it. I don't even know her name, but it's not going to work out. No one's going to watch that movie, unfortunately. As much as I like a lot of Christopher Nolan's stuff, I'm just not going to bite on this new Troy movie coming out with a completely incredulous Troy. It's the same thing like with Snow White. Remember when they put Gal Gadot and the other one, the taco maker, as Snow White? And they got the taco stand girl. And you're supposed to believe, remember the premise of Snow White was that the evil queen was so jealous of the beauty. So you had to believe that Gal Gadot was so jealous of the beauty of the girl who's from Taco Bell that you were supposed to believe that that made any sense. And now you got to do it again. You got to believe that this Troy girl inspired people to war. It's not going to work. No one wants to hear about it. It's just not going to work. It will not work. Yeah, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I'll be skipping the new version, whatever it is. I think it is another one of these complete ruinations of the whole thing. It's going to be like Animal Farm, where the lion is really a gay communist, and he's against, somehow he's against legal immigration. He's an open borders advocate, right? It was open borders. That's what it's going to be all about. So there you go. We'll see more of that. So there you go. We're talking about open borders today. What are folks saying over on YouTube? BTC Pleb, yo. BTC Pleb says World War III is over. Trust Trump. I'm with you on that one. I got to use a passport with Trump on it. Yeah, we got to get the Trump passports. Woke Odyssey. Yeah, not going to be good. Good morning, team. It's a great day to stack sats. A good job at Bitcoin 2026, says Gary Flanzer. Thanks a lot for that. Great day, all. Great day, Knox Bill 200K. Have fun. Jonatoro, good morning indeed. We got a big hand pink waving from Big PP. I appreciate it, everyone. Okay, let's acknowledge that's a sunrise despite the curtain being down. We got Bitcoin running at 80,000, nearly 81,000 US trash tokens per Bitcoin. We're doing great, everyone. Let's have a coffee and talk about what's new. The White Witch wants to lock the closet. Yeah, exactly. That's what it's going to be about. She wants to lock. They're going to find some dumb way to make it relevant. So let's find out how the NPCs are doing this morning. It's not going great, guys. It's not going great. It's not going great. They're still worried about the microplastics in the atmosphere. The microplastics continue to make the world warmer. They're not just in your brain. They're not just in your blood. They're in the atmosphere, everyone. We talked about this yesterday. Here, there's just a picture of them on the sand again because they have trouble getting pictures of them in the air, right? Because it's so believable that they're in the air. They're just too small that you can't see them. They're in the air. Microplastic and nanoplastic particles have invaded not only the soil and the waters of our planet, but also the atmosphere. A new study published in Nature Climate Change shows that these airborne particles also contribute to global warming, especially when they're colored. Racist. That's very racist of you, National Observer. I don't know. Are they plastics of color? That would sound better. That you really should change it to plastics of color. Colored plastics, I don't know. It's pretty soon. If you go that way, it's going to be, colored water fountains again, colored buses, color parts of the bus, right? I would prefer if you called it microplastics of color. That would be better. And then I would understand what you mean a little better. Microplastics is a generic term that includes nanoplastics. Okay, so that's the bigger category. Solar radiation. This is the problem, guys. A model study published in 2021 estimated that the rate, guys, they got this totally right. The radiative effect of microplastics in the atmosphere was minimal, even negligible compared with that of aerosols, right? But the reality is quite different. Once we actually stopped estimating the radiative effect of microplastics and we really measured it, right? We really sat down and we measured it around the world. We were able to measure not only the amount of microplastics in the atmosphere, but its effect on the radiative temperature of the Earth. That's what happened. Chinese and US researchers examined the characteristics such as color, size, composition, and aging. And they looked at the way they absorbed and scattered solar radiation. The news is terrible. An urgent role to understand, guys. Guys, these plastics of color, right? Now, I know what you're saying. We all knew that clear plastic and anything clear versus anything colored has different thermodynamics, right? But that's nothing. It's not a childhood experiment. This is real science. It's not like when you were a kid and you were in science class and you just heated up different paper with a temperature gauge below it to find out that different colors had different absorption rates. It's surely not that science. No. It's much more complicated. It's much more nuanced. Okay, it's not a kid's experiment at all. Look what they did. Right? Such a contribution is a substantial fraction, especially considering that microplastics and nanoplastics are a class of pollutants that has not been systematically included in climate assessments. Guys, we got to add it to the models. They're all bullshit without it. Right? That's what they figured out. Now they know the distribution through simulations of atmospheric transport of microplastics and nanoplastics detected in various regions around the world. The guys... they blew the plastic and then they measured the temperature and it didn't turn out well. We got real problems. All right. They've absorbed the solar radiation and they reflect it into space, right? Known as the radiative effect. It's positive. That's when the energy absorbed is greater than the energy returned. Oh no, they've helped warm. So that's what's going on. These little particles, they're warming the air around them. We're all going to die. We're all going to die. And wouldn't you believe this, right? Canada, we're hearing all this stuff in Canada. What's going on? We got a lot of Canada content today. Here's what we know, guys. A race to regulate, guys. Canada, you're not going to believe it. They're falling behind as the EU is setting AI legislation. Can you believe that Canada isn't legislating AI as fast as the EU? What does this mean? Poor Canada. They can't even win the AI regulation race. No. And then we're getting hit with the longer allergy season. This guy got hit right in the face with it. He's screwed. He's got the allergies. We got allergies everywhere. Here, spring is in full swing, and experts say Montreal is seeing a longer allergy season due to climate change, guys. We got a longer season. We got the climate change. Everyone's got the allergies. But you're better off, guys, because you know old Trump, right? He's out there saying it's a big scam, right? In Canada, we know ignore Trump. Millions of Americans are still concerned about climate change, guys. We need to ignore Trump. Meanwhile, Trump's out there trying to get the return of the Presidential Physical Fitness Award, right? And now that it's back, he's missing the point. Health experts say. Researchers say that Donald Trump's resurrection of widely maligned fitness testing in schools is half-baked and unlikely to move the needle on youth physical activity. Guys, he shouldn't even have bothered. He shouldn't have bothered, right? The bottom line is that fitness testing is not going to improve the health and well-being of American youth. No. Just because we know how fat and lazy they are doesn't mean anyone's helping. That's not helping. Right? Calling all these fat people fat and lazy isn't helping anyone, right? Should we test fitness? Yes or no? Really, the question is, what systems are in place, right? If we have this data, what systems are in place in our schools and our communities, right? Don't bother with the test. What systems? Get the systems right, right? This fitness award is given out to those who excel, right? President Trump revived the test, right? But obviously he's an idiot, right? It's so stupid, right? It's sort of half-baked, says Feigenbaum. I hope I didn't get that name wrong. Feigenbaum, right, said, on the one hand, Trump's actions are spotlighting children's health and fitness at a time when an estimated 20 to 25% of children get the recommended 60 minutes of daily physical activity. He says physical activity is crucial. Hold on, guys. Your experts are weighing in. This is the truth. Get ready. Take notes if you're not taking notes. If you don't take notes during this show, you got to start now. All right. Physical activity is crucial for children's well-being, guys. And benefits can include improved academic importance, better brain health. You need good brain health, right? We need the brain health. And there can be some benefits to physical fitness testing. Just a couple, right? Now we know, right? You can't test kids into fitness. No, that doesn't work, right? Really good teachers can make this a fun experience for children, right? There's the potential for this to be a positive experience, but in the same breath, there's potential for this to be a negative experience, guys, right? We need to give every kid, as many positive experiences with as many different forms of physical activity as we can provide. Have fun, make friends, learn something new, full stop, right? Feigenbaum has it answered. Listen to Feigenbaum. He knows it. We get this. Trump's Iran war may stymie climate gains with boost to big oil. Experts say Trump is just giving a boost to big oil. Windfall profits could lock in Trump-era political wins for industry and slow clean energy transition. He's ruining it all, guys. Experts say Trump's Iran war strategy is doomed to fail. So not only is it going to give climate gains they're going to stymie them in a big boost to oil, they're also going to fail, right? Experts warn Donald Trump's ongoing war with Iran is unwinnable due to his fundamental misunderstanding of the regime's psychology, strategy, and resilience. Analysts argue his shifting tactics from airstrikes to blockades misread Iran's capacity to endure pressure and ignore cultural negotiation The conflict's economic fallout and political risk could define his legacy, drawing parallels to past U.S. foreign policy failures. Analysts see fundamental misleading of Iran. Economic fallout mirrors past U.S. crisis. Cultural and political gaps block progress. Legacy risks and historical comparisons. He's losing, everyone. He can't win this. He's losing. What did I just take off? Oh, no, I think I'm okay. And indeed, the biggest obstacle to an Iran deal may be Trump's ego, guys. We just heard it was cultural differences, but no, it's Trump's ego. It's his ego. His ego's in the way. His ego. And we get this story now from Canada, from BBC. 2 people arrested following BBC investigation into fake gay asylum claims. Everything's fake and gay. Everything's just fake and gay. We got more fake and gay. Did someone say fake and gay? We got fake and gay here, according to the BBC. There's fake and gay asylum claims in Canada. 2 people arrested after BC asylum investigation for being fake and gay. That's what happened in Canada. Fake and gay stuff. We get this. ABC News found cases of sophisticated immigration scams like the fake and gay scam in Canada. Here, they found sophisticated immigration scams across the country as bad actors seize on the Trump administration's mass deportation agenda. Guys, the victims here are the illegal immigrants. Obviously, they're hiring sophisticated immigration scam lawyers, right, to make sure that their illegal entry into the United States isn't noticed, right? They are definitely the victims here. I feel so bad for them. Now, 2 really funny stories. Same headline. They're excellent. We get this both from Canada. Russia, everyone. Amplifying Alberta separatism debate to stoke division and study. I've got to admit, guys, the Russians have been telling me every day. I've been talking about this for over 2 years now. And it's all Russian propaganda, guys. I hate to break it to you. The Russian propaganda thing is, I'm a part of it. Okay, I'm a part of it. Don't believe anything. Alberta's not trying to separate. No. We get BBC also saying foreign actors like Russia are interfering in Alberta's separatist debate. New report says. Guys, no one in Alberta wants separation from Canada. Things are going so great. It obviously is Russian interference. Alberta is so happy in Canada. Now we finally know what's behind it all. Now we finally can see the truth. It's all Russia. We got more Russia stuff. So there you go, everyone. That is our fake news of the day. I hope you liked it. I hope you liked the fake news. I am going to refer again to those stories of Russia being involved in the situation in Canada. It's relevant because indeed seeing that stuff pop up, seeing the Mark Carney stuff pop up, seeing all of this proxy war that is now obvious between the City of London and the United States, everything we saw from my whiteboard that I've been a big fan of for some time. Let me find it here and pull it out because we're going to use the whiteboard again today, the one we used yesterday. Let me see where it is. There she is. So indeed, here you're seeing more and more these 3 belligerent parties within World War III. And these 3 belligerent parties in World War III being the commodity-based Axis elements. So there you're talking about China and Russia, and of course their commodity-based economy, their money, their internet version, heavily censored. We've known that for a while, and their mutually assured destruction method of conducting and fighting this World War III. But all 3 of these things are sort of falling apart. Maybe the firewall's held, but their money system collapsed. This mutually assured destruction thing with the Strait of Hormuz not working out. So as far as belligerence in World War III, we'll talk a little bit more about the Axis as we go today, but not really the enemy anymore. Right now, it looks more and more like the fight is between the ables and the all lies, with the UK, Canada, EU, and Australia all mounting their system. And so this war that you're seeing more and more of, this UK system versus what Trump is prosecuting in the Strait of Hormuz and with Iran, is now taking on an even more kinetic aspect out of Canada. Here, Promethean Action taking a spotlight yesterday to Mark Carney's actions the past few days. Here, Dante Rossi saying, this post provides a sharp, well-researched, and eye-opening analysis of Mark Carney's strategic appointment of Louis Arbour, brilliantly connecting the dots on global institutional ties and political timing in a way that adds real depth to understanding of Canada's and Mark Carney's anti-American leadership. Here, Zero Hedge writing, this today, Canadian Prime Minister is playing a very dangerous game. And again, why I continue to predict that the end of Canada is upon us. Why prosecuting this war in the way they have, why being cornered in the way that they are, and lashing out economically, lashing out in systems, lashing out in economic warfare and psychological warfare, has now created a fault line that is much more obvious. And we really are now witnessing the true nature of World War III, especially as the Axis forces tend to stand down as we get to these new economic choke points that are becoming more and more obvious. We'll talk about that today. But first, let's get to Susan breakdown. I've got two elements here that I want to bring up. So first up here, we'll make sure this works again. So I will share it correctly so that we don't have the annoying stuff. So here you're going to get a sense of some of the institutional ties that Mark Carney has and what actually he is rolling out for Canada, and why it's becoming a national security concern for the United States as this psychological and economic war takes shape between Canada, London, and the United States, and what the outcomes of it are going to be.
She's Arbour, and her appointment tells you everything about what rebuilding the rules-based order actually means in practice. Arbour built her career as chief prosecutor of the United Nations International Criminal Tribunals for both Yugoslavia and Rwanda. These were the first such tribunals since Nuremberg. And from that platform, she became one of the most prominent advocates for creating a permanent international criminal court. She delivered the opening statement at the launch of the NGO coalition for the ICC's global ratification, and she pushed governments to sign the statute. She described the ICC as the necessary.
And I got to tell you guys, I know a lot of people, just having gone to law school with a lot of these Canadian aristocrats. I knew a lot of people who went and worked at the ICC. Some of the people, remember I've mentioned before that I got excommunicated from a lot of the aristocrats and Laurentian elite here in Canada. Well, a lot of that stems back to drinks and cocktails I had in probably mid 2016. I'm knee deep in Bitcoin at this point, absolutely certain Trump is going to win the 2016 election. And I went out with a couple of these sludge people, aristocrats that all work for the ICC. One was just coming back from the ICC. He had just been there for a couple of years. He didn't even know what Bitcoin was. He was like, what's Bitcoin? And so they're all laughing at me for the Trump thing and for Bitcoin, all totally secure and confident that I was kooky, that I had, gone astray, lost my edge from when we knew each other in law school. And so, again, just a few months later, Bitcoin was pumping, Trump was president, and I literally haven't seen those people since. They had to go basically into witness protection because of the fear they had of the type of laughter and mocking that I was going to bring their way. I often believed stupidly that, if I was right about Trump and Bitcoin, that people would say, oh, Nolan, how did you know? I'm going to totally change my mind now. You were right. Nothing. Like, I actually believed that was going to happen back then. 10 years ago, I was naive enough to believe that if I was right about Trump and Bitcoin, that people would agree with me. Can you believe that? Obviously, their brains just went, and the only time I've seen these people, the only time was just after Bitcoin crashed because of the SBF stuff and Joe Biden was president. Then I suddenly got invites to Christmas parties and all that stuff again. I went and just mocked them, but the minute it became obvious Trump was back, my invites were out again. So can't expect it, right? So here she'll explain more of this ICC. So I just want to say that I have a personal connection to this, and that I've known tons of Laurentian elites, so-called conservatives. These were the people that were telling Harper when he was prime minister in Canada, you can't destroy the CBC. You need to govern first. You need to mandate. You can't do that. You can't tell the CBC they can't get public money anymore. You didn't run on that, right? You got to win another mandate to say it. And I was the one saying, you guys are all stupid. Like, you have to end this. That's the only thing we should be doing, is ending the public broadcaster when they won the 2011 majority. And of course they didn't, which was their downfall. They thought, just like I thought, being right was going to actually persuade people. The conservatives of that era actually believed that if they were just right about energy or global warming, that people would listen to them. No, it's not the way the world works.
The evolution from the tribunals she ran, turning them into a permanent standing institution. So while she didn't work for the ICC, she built the political and legal movement that brought it into existence. She did it from the inside the same apparatus that George Soros was funding from the outside. Here's what Soros's Open Society said in a document they published on March 19th, 2018, about their relationship to the ICC. The Justice Initiative works closely with the International Criminal Court, helping it function as efficiently and effectively as possible, assisting local human rights advocates in gathering and presenting information of use to the ICC, pursuing advocacy and public education with governments to secure support for the ICC, and contributing to building the capacity of the ICC staff. So Arbor's career, the very same Arbor who's now the Governor General of Canada, helped build the legitimacy for the court that George Soros funded. And that apparatus then produced Jack Smith. Before he was appointed special counsel to prosecute Donald Trump, Jack Smith spent 2 years inside the ICC's Office of the Prosecutor in The Hague, the institution that Arbor championed and Soros funded. He then went to the Kosovo Specialist Chambers, and that was the direct successor to Arbor's Yugoslavia Tribunal. This is the same legal framework and the same mandate.
And don't forget what Mike Benz taught us about Jack Smith. He was blackmailer in chief. He was out doing all kinds of dirty cop ops. He was working with the dirty cops. He's a lawyer, but basically a dirty cop out there planting stuff. We found out from Mike Benz that he was a mop-up man and one of the few that is willing to do the most illegal, egregious things. He's one of the few willing to totally lie on the record in order to advance his agenda. Not everyone is capable of doing that. You've got to be in the particular Eric Swalwell or you got to be of that ilk. Not everyone is that sociopathic, and Jack Smith would be one of those people.
Then Jack Smith brought it home, and he was handed a domestic target, Donald Trump. So Carney just made the architect of that entire project Canada's Governor General, the officer with the power to dismiss a government and command its military. This is not a coincidence. That's not a personnel decision. That is a signal delivered just as Carney is trying to rally what is left of the empire against Donald Trump's world of sovereign nations. Now, let's look at how those very same battle lines play out.
So there you go. This infrastructure, this Jack Smith, and how it connects to these prosecutions that Trump suffered from. how it connects to the blackmailocracy, to all of this architecture of deceit. And you're seeing it come out even here, right? It's back in the news today. You've got Peachy Keenan reminding us Jack Smith calls the Justice Department corrupted by Trump and his allies. So he's out there today saying, just like Obama said, and we're going to listen to Obama's comments now, attacking the partisanship of the Department of Justice and the Attorney General. Peachy Keenan said the hired assassin Joe Biden's DOJ ordered to get Trump by any means necessary accuses Trump of doing what they did. In case you were wondering, Jack Smith did make the cut for my new book, Super Villains, obviously. And dreamy Jack Smith, right? Remember dreamy Jack Smith. So we got Jack Smith attacking the DOJ today or yesterday, the same day that Obama's out there doing it. So this is what Obama had the gall to say. He says the White House shouldn't be able to direct the AG to go around prosecuting whoever the president wants prosecuted, right? You can't have a situation where whoever's in charge of the government starts using that to go after their political enemies or reward their friends. So if this doesn't absolutely light your brain on fire with rage, murderous rage, to hear someone, it's obviously rage baiting and trolling and all that because it's with Stephen Colbert of all people, right? But let's not forget, right? Just look at the facts before you start flying off the handle and being so mad at Obama, and realize the game that's being played. Eric Holder, I'm still the president's wingman, right? Every time this guy opens his mouth, we're reminded of how mendacious and corrupt he was. He picked his wingman to run the DOJ, and when his VP became president, he tried to put his opponent in prison. We're seeing more and more people bring it up, right? Obama's AG Holder called himself Obama's wingman. Obama participated in the effort to frame Trump with Russia collusion. For better or worse, POTUS should be able to direct DOJ to go after certain people. This only ends with a tit for tat. And so lots of people today bringing up just how targeted Obama was, right? You get a bunch of these cases. Dinesh D'Souza comes out a few weeks after I released Obama's America in more than 2,000 theaters across America. The Obama DOJ spied on me, secretly obtained my bank accounts, and had the FBI banging on my door. Another one of these firsthand accounts from Ken LaCourte, saying in 2016, the AG's office subpoenaed me and other top Fox News executives after it convened a grand jury and federal fishing expedition against Fox. They went through our emails, flew me across the country, and interrogated us under oath. My legal fees alone were over 100,000 US trash tokens. After a year, they quietly dropped it. No charges, no apologies. And let's not forget, right, where Obama really came from in all of this, right? Right, he's been doing all of the same stuff. Here's Senator John Kennedy talking about it. He mic drops Hussein Obama, whining the president shouldn't tell the attorney general who to prosecute. I wish that President Obama had talked to Attorney General Merrick Garland and President Biden about that point. They prosecuted a former president of the United States, then Donald Trump, now President Trump. And not only was he a former president of the United States, he was a current candidate for president running against Attorney General Garland's own boss. So it's just happening again and again. And here you can even see the fake news trying to persuade on it. According to the New Yorker, the real victim of the Trump being shot in the head and nearly assassinated was Barack Obama. Trump was merely grazed by a bullet, but the real threat was to Obama. And indeed, it is just still not working out in the greater public. A dangerous inchoate, I don't know what that is, inchoate rage directed Obama persists alongside the widespread affection for him. And the rage demands vigilance. So, obviously Obama's the big victim. And, Obama does this thing too, where he's pitying the Republicans, right? They haven't lived up to his expectations. I'm worried, he says, about the Republican Party. I'd love a Republican Party that believed in the rule of law and wasn't constantly tapping into our worst impulses, right? Now, a lot of people, right? You've even got our current attorney general coming out and saying the same thing. Former President Obama made recent comments about the power and influence of the president, saying that the White House shouldn't be able to direct the attorney general to go around prosecuting whoever the president wants to prosecute. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche called the remarks extraordinarily rich. How about we think about what happened in the past 4 years, Blanche asked CBS News, before going on to reference multiple indictments brought against President Trump. And so here, notice it's from CBS News. So one of the persuasion planks that we have to look at here is how much capacity does Obama still have to persuade? CBS News calling him out. That's not going to work. He's got to go with Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert's got, I don't know, a week left on his show, or is it already over? Nobody knows, but nobody watches it anyway. And ultimately, um, Obama's big support structure is leaving him even quicker, right? His whole support structure that's the same as we saw from Mark Carney, this International Criminal Court and all these international bodies, all of them falling apart as well. Here you see Obama coming back from London when they started using the Jack Smith prosecutions, and a month after DNI Gabbard's announcement that Obama led the treasonous conspiracy against President Trump, Obama traveled to London, England multiple times. The plot against Donald Trump was hatched in England by the CIA and elements of British intelligence. It was executed by John Brennan and Gina Haspel, who was the head of the CIA London station at the time. This offshore scheme was structured in a way in an attempt to give Obama and his cronies implausible deniability. But again, his capacity to persuade here is weakening by the minute. And indeed, part of him coming out of his hole and attacking Trump in this way recently, I think, is a bigger sign right now. Awakened Outlaw here worries Obama is setting a bad precedent by constantly going after Trump publicly, as it erodes the traditional norm of former presidents acting as elder statesmen rather than active political combatants. Not to mention it's divisive as all get out. But now that I think about it, his doing so is very on brand for the guy who earned the nickname Divider in Chief. But I think it says something else. And I think seeing him come out of his hole and attempt to fight Trump using this public prosecution, using the airwaves, you're really seeing the difference and imbalance in their persuasion capacity right now. Obama, I mean, mostly mocked. I mean, I don't think he changed anyone's mind. I think his ability to persuade is shrinking and shrinking. His voice is becoming less persuasive. His ability to conjure a bunch of sycophants behind him is becoming way less than it was just a few short years ago. And I actually think it's a sign of desperation. Here's TMK writing much the same thing, saying, I don't have any inside information. Neither do I. I'm just going on what I'm seeing. But Barack Obama suddenly ramping up the public appearances and political posts on X feels different. Almost like he senses the walls are closing in and is trying to shape the narrative before something big goes down. Now, I don't, I mock everyone all the time for saying the walls are closing in on Trump. So here I am saying the walls are closing in, but I really do think they are. And I think here we're seeing with what's going on with Comey and Brennan and all the declassification around Russia, getting a better sense of just how fake Russia really was, and starting to get a sense now of the kind of division that was caused and the kind of mischief that was caused by these folks. And again, Trump constantly saying that Obama needs to be prosecuted. I think eventually we're going to get to that point, right? Because the forces that could save Obama here are all in the communications realm. Stephen Colbert doesn't even have a show. That's the best he can do. The New Yorker can't move the needle. Washington Post looks like it's defected from the sludge people. The New York Times, not strong enough anymore. ABC News, any of these other ones, NBC News, not strong enough. Elise Slotkin, not strong enough. And on top of that, you've got this crumbling English, British edifice, the same one we heard about from Mark Carney, that doesn't look like it's going to be able to win this fight. And so you got to look at the persuasion game here, and you got to look at the momentum. And when I say walls are closing in, I just see that everything that Trump is doing with his attorney general and with all of this stuff, to me, says that there's just no way that there's just no way that this situation with Obama is going to turn around. It doesn't look like the momentum is going to change. It looks like we're on a steady course towards his prosecution. and that there will be at some point some names going on as the noose continues to tighten around Brennan and Comey and every other one of the conspirators around Russia. And here could be nothing, but it reminds me of how Comey constantly stayed in the spotlight when pressure started building around him. Not proof of anything, obviously, but psychologically it feels like confidence and less like confidence and more like a defensive posture, almost a preemptive PR shield. Maybe I'm wrong, but the timing feels very interesting. And it looks like what's happening. And we'll see. And that's why, go back to the other question around this, because it's not just the Russia investigation. It's not just the International Criminal Court. It's all of the economic incentives that allowed for someone like Obama to be installed and to have any persuasive amplification and capacity. All of that superstructure, all of that architecture of deceit that allowed Obama to be persuasive, all of that's coming down. And and going back to the situation in Ukraine right now and Russia and Iran, you can see that all of these economic outcomes, the same things that the UK relied on, so the monopoly on oil, all of these things, and the ability to, let's say, rug pull the global market with their blackmail around potentially creating insecurity in oil supply through the threat of Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. Removing all of that changes a lot of the economic incentives around the world and a lot of the economic frameworks that otherwise would still be in place, right? So I'll show you what I mean, because from many levels here, we're seeing the potential peace come out of the Straits of Hormuz and Tehran, and if that peace is achieved, then we're going to see a huge economic bonanza out of that. And that economic bonanza is not going to help the City of London or Obama's own architecture of deceit. And it looks like we're going to get there. So looking at what's going on in Iran, Washington has presented Tehran with an updated nuclear proposal. If accepted, both sides would enter a 30-day negotiation phase focused on the final technical details. Key U.S. demands include Iran formally declaring it's not pursuing a nuclear weapon, full dismantling of Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, a complete prohibition on underground nuclear activity, snap inspections with automatic penalties for violations, a 20-year halt on uranium enrichment, but this is the important one, transfer of all enriched uranium stockpiles out of Iran. And that, I think, is going to be the final death knell for Obama, because the signature of the uranium, I think, will go back to Uranium One, which ties the Iran war to Russia, and the story with Hillary Clinton and what exactly happened. So if you go back and look at the Russia-Ukraine war, which I think is also going to come to an end, you're starting to see more of this architecture come down. And so here, there's this pervasive propaganda spread by bots at this point that Russia couldn't beat Europe because Russia can't beat little Ukraine by itself, which is insane. The Ukraine war is a proxy war, Russia versus Europe and the US, with Ukraine providing the warm bodies. Russia versus Ukraine by itself would have been over in months, as would have happened in 2014 if Russia had wanted to. NATO spent the next 8 years arming Ukraine to the teeth while training their military forces. By 2022, Ukraine had the largest army in Europe. Other than Russia, Ukraine was a far more formidable opponent than Germany, France, or Britain would have been at that point, nukes aside, and Russia has a lot of them. It then settled into a logistical war, Russia versus Europe, with the US providing a lot of support. According to the dumb shits on here who still talk about relative GDPs, Russia should have lost that logistical battle overwhelming when faced with the combined military supplies and economies of Europe and the US. They didn't, and they are gaining in the fifth year of the war. Russia is still mounting overwhelming and increasing drone and missile attacks and slowly gaining ground while Ukraine is running out of US supplied interceptors. The Ukraine war can only be viewed as what it is, a proxy war that Europe is currently losing. I'm in no way a pro-Russian account. I'm a pro-American account. Yes, the US remains far more powerful than Europe, but reality needs to be faced. Europe is taking its best shot at Russia via dead Ukrainians, and Europe is slowly losing the battle, even with UK backing. So there you go. These stories, these economic incentives that are out there are lining up so that we're going to see peace. You're seeing, and the peace dividend that will be paid from it. So you can tell this is coming because, even here, China siding with Trump's sanctions against Iranian oil refiners, right? Per Bloomberg, China's financial regulator instructed major banks to temporarily halt new loans to several refiners sanctioned by the US over their ties in Iranian oil. So it looks like the Chinese are now pressuring Iran so that next week when China and the United States meet, that they'll have a blank slate when it comes to this energy question. This preserves Beijing's ability to claim it isn't actively enforcing American sanctions, while functionally making it impossible for the Iranian-linked refiners to expand operations. The sanctions architecture Trump built around Iran's oil sales just got real Chinese cooperation, even as Beijing publicly insists otherwise. For Trump, this is the kind of pre-summit signal that suggests Xi is genuinely willing to make a deal. I think you're going to see that. Even more important than that, you're seeing the US and Russia come to a commercial deal over fertilizer. The US is wise to significantly increase its purchases of Russian fertilizer at the highest level in history, while the EU and the UK will experience a major agricultural crisis due to their Russophobic position. US farmers and consumers benefit while the EU and the UK's suffer. And in the end, those incentives, I guess you could say, the incentives for peace coming out of this food deal, coming out of the oil deal, look like that the economic conditions are going to drive the outcomes. Those incentives are going to drive the outcomes. You've got Elon Musk here coming out with a video of him from a few years ago talking about innovation and incentives and how it works. And he says here, incentives drive outcomes. Inevitably, we're not going to win arguments over what happened with Obama and Russia and Ukraine through just logic, right? The architecture of deceit is too great. The amount of brainwashing is too great. But the way to cut through the brainwashing is with these incentives. It is with these economics that come around just groceries, the economics that come around people aligning with power, not so much arguments. And the power side of that architecture of deceit is weakening every day. The ability to persuade in the fiat world, the fiat institutions like the ICC, the International Criminal Court, like the Governor General of Canada, everything that you see Mark Carney putting his faith in is dying at once, and new things are arising to take their place. New economic incentives are arising to take their place. You're seeing China, Russia, and the United States aligning on energy, on fertilizer, and you're seeing the rest of these international bodies, all the smokescreens that the UK and the Carney types created over the years, go bankrupt and run out of money. Here you see the UN talking about how they're facing total financial collapse because member states are refusing to pay their dues. We face a real danger of running out of money, right? A corrupt, bloated bureaucracy that rewards regimes like Iran while obsessively attacking democracies does not deserve a single dime of Western taxpayer money. And this guy here is crying that it's falling apart. And it is falling apart. And, it gets even better than that. Go to all of this hantavirus. I see people in the comments talking about this new disease that's like a new COVID. It's on a cruise ship, right? Well, look at the persuasion power of the people warning you about this, right? Roman Helmet Guy says people haven't lost trust in science. They've lost trust in a self selected, self perpetuating academic priest class who rely on constant alarmism or revisionism to secure funding and who look upon dissent as heretical to an extent that would make the medieval church blush. You're seeing Matt Walsh say the same thing. I don't think this hantavirus thing is anything to worry about. The pandemic risk is extremely low. But the problem is that our public health authorities permanently destroyed their credibility with COVID. So if there is ever an apocalyptic pandemic, nobody will believe them. And that's the truth. That's why you're not going to get anything with this hantavirus. Everyone is yawning. Everyone's saying, oh, right, yeah, sure. No one believes it. And if not enough people believe it, that's one of the weaknesses of the Fiat persuasion system. It doesn't have a great fault tolerance. You need almost total and complete narrative alignment if you're going to get people to buy this shit, and it's just not there. When you don't have total and complete narrative alignment at a saturation level that we got in 2020, it's not going to work, and you're never going to get to that level. And you're not going to get to that level again because the whole system has become too poor, too much of a failure, and too riddled with its own past performance failing. And so when you look at the economics now, and that's what you have to look at, right? You don't have to look at arguments anymore. You just need to look at each system and how it's providing and what it's producing. Is it producing energy? Is it producing food? Is it producing sustenance? And you compare those two things, and you'll be able to judge the persuasion of each of these systems more accurately. So go look at what Mark Carney is siding with. The UK is not looking very good here. Marty Bent pointing it out, not looking good in the UK from a financial perspective. The UK 30-year is now 80 basis points above the peak of the Liz Truss crisis. Nobody is talking about it. The UK 30-year gilt hit 5.78%, the highest since 1998. The bond market is pricing more pain than the moment that supposedly broke British fiscal credibility 2 years ago. The UK is just the canary. The US 10-year hit, blah, blah, blah. Every major central bank was supposed to be cutting. It's now is now considering hikes. The energy shock reshuffled monetary policy. Oil above 100 trash tokens mean inflation is returning to 2%. This is the end game. Decades of money printing meet supply shock. Central banks can't print away. The UK has 2.7 trillion trash pounds in debt, with 106 billion trash pounds in annual interest, more than the entire defense budget. The ceasefire rumors surfaced the morning after the US 30-year yield surpassed 5%. Whether the deal materializes or not, the bond market forced the conversation. Bitcoin sits outside the entire system. When every fiat bond market reprices lower at the same time, the case for a neutral reserve asset stops being a thesis and starts being arithmetic. Again, it's why I built the board the way I did. It's why I put that World War III board and assembled it in this way. Again, it's why you look at this growth strategy, the mutually assured destruction over. So this World War III board is becoming much clearer, right? The BRICS money didn't materialize. You're already hearing both China and Russia align with the US system. There's no way the Chinese are going to let their money free float. Russia already promising in whatever peace deal comes from Ukraine and Russia that they will not be sanctioned anymore and will head back to the US dollar settlement system. You're seeing that from Iran as well. So almost all of this, except for their own firewall, is down, which is of no concern to us, obviously. Allies here, their money system not working, growth not going to happen, their institutions completely incredulous, just not catching on anymore. Their ability to persuade through censorship, through the fear mongering of the virus stuff, not working at all. They're going to go with the censorship, of course. We're seeing it on all levels. Europe is building a federal ministry of truth to censor and imprison thousands of dissenting voters, and it could target Americans next. It's completely predictable from my World War III belligerent map here, my World War III board. Let me find the Prof. Sanosh thing here on it. I'll share the audio. Doesn't not
Sir, and the rest, wrong thinkers, so European voters never have to wonder who they're supposed to vote for. This matters for America since Democrats can't wait to do it here. This week, the European Parliament is rubber stamping the so-called democracy shield to, quote, safeguard the integrity of elections, would create a permanent Ministry of Truth, the European Center for Democratic Resilience, to enable coordinated responses to take down Facebook posts that are threatening the very foundations of European civilization, and then arrest the authors so they can never again ask why Europe imports thousands of rapists and gives them free houses. The shield formalizes Europe's patchwork of mass censorship that already censors 80 million posts a month, of which an independent study found up to 99.7% were legal. Europe's left just didn't like them. Even American platforms, Facebook or YouTube, have to obey because fines reach $50 million per post left up. Of course, it's not just censorship. European countries are imprisoning thousands for free speech. In Britain or Denmark, a mean tweet can get you 2 years in prison, apparently longer than the migrant gang rape that motivated the tweet. In France and ominously Germany, it's 5 years for wrongthink. Together, they are arresting more than 1,000 European voters per month for tweets. Germany arrested a man for calling a politician, quote, dumb. Another German got 7 months for posting a politician holding a sign saying, I hate freedom of speech. An Irish comedian was arrested for a joke written in America in case you're thinking of visiting Europe while committing trans jokes. And it's not just tweets. A British grandmother was arrested for silently praying across the street from an abortion clinic. Another British grandmother was arrested for a sign saying, quote, here to talk only if you want. An autistic 16-year-old British girl was arrested for saying an officer, quote, looked like a lesbian. Belgian conservatives were arrested for holding signs saying children cannot consent to puberty blockers. One British think tank estimates thought crimes consume 650,000 hours of police time in the UK, while 90% of violent and sexual crimes go unsolved, many ironically committed by the third world migrants who are the subjects of these tweets, given that 70% of migrants receive government welfare while committing crimes at 5 to 20 times higher than native Britons. So it's next brought to you by the Bitcoin Way. Europe is gone, at least.
And so that's how you can tell a lot more. Just look at these financial incentives. Look at their ability to pay for persuasion. It's not there. They've got to censor. There's nothing else they can do. And because there's nothing else they can do, because they're falling into poverty and all of these things, right? Just look at the note here from Preston Byrne, right? Britannia rule the internet, discussing the new territorial scope of the Law Commission's recommendations. And Preston Byrne says, yeah, that's not going to fly in America. We have a right to talk about British court proceedings, regardless of what the British think about it. British censorship law doesn't command Americans on American soil, regardless of whether our speech can be accessed on British soil. So, it's even easier to predict, though. Just look at what's going on with the European trade issues here. We see from Jim Ferguson, trade tensions, the U.S. losing patience with EU. A deal was agreed to, tariffs cut, but that's why you've got more of this trade war going on, not going to help the bottom line in Europe at all. And here you see the results of this persuasion, right? Wall Street Journal writing here, what happens when Europeans find out how poor they are? The continent trails far behind U.S. economic output. Politics is bound to catch up sooner or later. And it looks like it already is. Just go look at the issues in Europe, right? And the polling here, AFD is sitting on a 41% in this area, the doorstep of absolute majority ahead of state elections in September. The numbers are extraordinary. We've got the AFD at 41%, the Christian Democrats, that's Merkel's old party, at 26%. Nothing else even around. The Greens are in the toilet. If the SPD drops below 5% on election day, the AFD would need only 39% to govern outright. This is not a fringe phenomenon anymore. Migration, the war in Europe, energy costs, and the economic spillover from the Iran war have done what years of debate could not. They have collapsed the traditional center. And the economics of these places, just like I said, from the Wall Street Journal saying that they're poor, And you're starting to see it come up in politics. Approval ratings for European leaders, 18% for Keir Starmer, 15% for Merz, 17% for Macron. Keir Starmer may be forced out this month if local elections go as badly as expected for the Labour Party. And again, you're seeing more and more of the censorship, but it's not going to work. You're seeing this almost every day. These stories, they're pushing this so hard. Politico Europe is an EU ban on social media possible. Legally, sure, said the European Commission's Martin Harris-Hess, but implementing such a measure will face practical difficulties. Well, of course it will. And, legally doing it and getting people to buy it are two different stories. And it just doesn't look like they've got the capacity, the throughput, all of it. So again, their plan is grow the economy and censor the internet. It ain't working. And they're not going to be able to persuade because, again, go back to just the simple questions here, right? And why we're seeing the political alignment change so much, why we're seeing this conversation change so much. Just go to Argentina and you'll see exactly how the framing and the political order shifting to communism versus not really exactly capitalism, but whatever it is they're doing in Argentina. You're seeing just the inability of the media to gather and articulate what's really going on. Here you see, after more than 2 years in Malay, the international press still does not understand what is happening in Argentina. The narrative abroad is shock therapy, social pain, fragile coalition. That frame misses the actual mechanism. Argentina did not have a budget problem. It had a printing problem. From 2003 to 2023, the central bank financed deficit after deficit until the peso lost 99% of its value against the dollar. Annual inflation hit 211% in 2023. Half the country was poor. That was the floor. What changed is not vibes, it's arithmetic. The fiscal deficit was eliminated for the first time in 16 years. Monthly inflation fell from 25% to low single digits. The central bank stopped printing to fund the treasury. Country risk dropped from 2,500 basis points to a fraction of that. Argentine sovereign debt, which used to trade like a default option, began behaving like normal emerging market paper. Critics say poverty rose. It did briefly because removing price controls and subsidies revealed the real prices of energy, transport, and food that the state had been hiding with debt. Once measured honestly, poverty has been falling fast. Real wages are recovering. Mortgages and pesos are reappearing, something that had not been possible in a generation. This matters beyond Argentina. It is the clearest live experiment in whether a developed style economy can be rebuilt by pulling the state out of places it never belonged. Spain, Italy, and France should be paying attention. A country does not get poor because it lacks resources. It gets poor because its political class learned to live off printing money and calling it social policy. Argentina spent 80 years proving that. It is now spending 2 years proving the opposite. And that becomes much more persuasive, right? And the poverty of these systems is why they're losing. And here you can see the all-time low levels of persuasion from Mark Carney. He's having to answer questions in Canada today about the Honda EV plant pulling out. And it's just some of the weakest content, some of the weakest arguments, some of the weakest takes you'll ever see. And I'll find it here. And the blaming of Trump doesn't work because this is jobs in Canada again. And you can see from this is yesterday in Quebec. You can see from this Mark Carney interview the lack of capacity to persuade because it's just more poverty. You can't sell poverty. It doesn't work.
Honda is reportedly suspending plans for a $15 billion EV plant in Ontario indefinitely. Has the government been informed of this decision, and how do you convince companies to invest here in Canada when there's so much global uncertainty?
Well, thank you for your question. First, we're in constant contact with all the major automakers, in other words, currently producing in Canada, and potential. And that includes Honda. So we're in discussions with them constantly. And look, there's no announcement today, to be clear. How do we convince companies to invest in Canada? A couple of things. One is,
so he's actually talking about his persuasion strategy here. How do we convince? How do we persuade them? Right? Listen to his answer.
our country has twice the rate of investment, foreign direct investment, than the United States, adjusted for the size of our population, twice the rate. We're at the highest level of foreign direct investment in Canada for 20 years. What you're seeing today, thank you, grâce aux travailleurs et travailleuses.
He always goes into French with that, so he had no answer. He had no answer. Other people invest per capita, blah, blah, blah.
Thanks to the workers and innovators.
So he just starts I'm not going to subject you to his French because it's absolutely horrendous. It's beyond anything that you could prepare yourself. I can't listen to it. Eventually, the Orange Man Bad Act will wear down even the most staunch liberal supporter, only a matter of time. And, go back to what we know of how to persuade, right? We're seeing the poverty really take shape in Canada. Again, the only thing holding Canada together is their appetite for this pain and poverty. And when it hits the grocery stores, it starts to really break. Grocery sector theft now in Canada at 10 billion trash tokens annually, now a national emergency. Now, think about where I am in Quebec and Vermont. I can still go to hundreds of outdoor stands that sell steak and milk, and there's no human around. Anyone could steal at any time. And yet we don't because we're not the same and it's different. And you're going to see that all of this food insecurity that's in Canada, all of this poverty, I mean, this is what it's come to. This is a church in Canada, a church in Canada. This is a church in British Columbia. Learn about medical assistance in dying. Come on, let's pray and you can die. Come on. So this is the end of it. And weirdly, so going back here to Susan Kokinda, I will change this. This is why the food question is like the oil question and why it's going to be heavily politicized going forward, because there's a connection here and you're going to see it and you're going to find out why Canada and the grocery question is going to be probably the main straw that broke the camel's back in Canada, because the amount that people are paying in Canada right now for food is untenable for their own poverty. And you'll see here that America is onto it. And this is going to be another one of those things that just creates this contrast between America and Canada that will be more persuasive than a Donald Trump argument, or more persuasive than anything Mark Carney's going to come up with, because he's already not that persuasive.
Out. When it comes to the economic fight here at home, the Trump administration is taking on the imperial business model in a way that nobody has done for decades. On Monday, there was an extraordinary press conference between the acting Attorney General, Todd Blanche, the Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins, and Peter Navarro, the White House's special trade counsel. And it was about beef. It was about why hamburger has basically become a luxury item for most of us. Secretary Rollins set the stage. She described why the administration is now taking unprecedented action against the big four meat packers who control 85% of the market.
As of January 1st of this year, we have about 86.2 million head of cattle and calves in America. That is the lowest since the 1950s, and this year we're looking to be slightly down again. In the past decade alone, we've lost over 17% of our cattle ranchers. More than 100,000 ranches across this country are no more. However, and this is the second part of what I want to talk about today, the consolidation in U.S. meatpacking has led to just 4 meatpackers: JBS, a Brazilian-owned company, Cargill, Tyson Foods, and National Beef, another Brazilian company. Those 4 companies monopolize about 85% of the U.S. processing market today. On top of that, half of these meatpacking giants, including the largest meat packer in the world, are either foreign-owned or have significant foreign ownership and control, making them a threat not just to our cattle producers, but a threat to America itself. And as time has gone on, it becomes more and more clear that food security is truly national security.
So this administration is taking on the largest meat packers in the world, and half of them are foreign-owned. And Rollins, the Agriculture Secretary, described it with the acting attorney general standing right next to her, describing how the administration is taking on a system of cartelization and market manipulation, which is one of the hallmarks of the imperial system. Then Rollins said something very significant. She identified how long this has been going on.
The rate of this four-firm control has accelerated since the 1970s. According to USDA data, concentration for cattle slaughter of these four was only 25% in 1977 and jumped to 71% by 1992. As mentioned today, it is an astounding 85%.
Now,
What the fuck happened in 1971?
those dates are very important. She points out this began in the 1970s, and that's not a coincidence. That was the turning point in the post-war system, when the Bretton Woods system of stable currencies and real economic expansion was ended. It was ended on August 15th, 1971, when the dollar was cut loose from the gold reserve standard. That was the point at which the financial system shifted from production to extraction. And it was in that same decade that the food supply started cartelizing. And by 1992, it was 71% controlled by these four companies. Now remember, this is the same process of cartelization and monopoly which took over world oil supplies during the same period. And it's a process which is now being dismantled by Donald Trump. In that press conference, Peter Navarro described just how much political power these meatpacking cartels have.
The Brazilians, particularly JBS, hands out millions of dollars to our American political system like it's candy. And the rate of return they get on that would make a Wall Street hedge fund blush.
Now, what
Navarro's really great. Huh? I mean, he's one of the highest IQ people that Trump has in his cabinet.
Navarro is doing right here is identifying the role of one of the two big foreign-owned meatpacking companies, JBS, which is nominally Brazilian-owned. But let's look at it a little more carefully. JBS is the world's largest meatpacker, and yes, it is Brazilian-owned, but it's controlled through a holding company called J&F. And one of the chairs of J&F for many years was a Brazilian financier named Henrique Mariel. His career spans the following institutions: the Bank of Boston, Fleet Boston, Lazard America. He was the president of Brazil's central bank for a while, and he was a member of the governing council of Lloyd's of London, the same institution which controlled shipping insurance on the Strait of Hormuz until their monopoly was busted up by President Trump, and extracted what Peter Navarro called a terror premium due to the instability created by the Iranian regime for 47 years, pricing war risk on every barrel of oil moving through the Strait of Hormuz. So, from the standpoint of empire, controlling raw materials and commodities through cartelization and manipulation is part of their business model. And this is just one example, this JBS example, of how the same personnel cycle through both operations, because it's one system: oil and food, Hormuz and your grocery store, both priced and cycled through the City of London and their institutions, and the Trump administration is taking it on both fronts. So
that's why in the end, the poverty of these systems and their increased grocery bills and all this stuff, the contrast is going to be more persuasive. Here's someone coming back from a winter, a snowbird who spends their winter in the United States, saying, "My wife and I returned from the States this past Saturday after spending 6 months there, getting away from the cold and snow. We went to Costco on Monday and were shocked on the prices of goods in Canada compared to the States. I'm talking about food items that people need to use/consume in order to live. Throw in alcohol and it's insane how much we as Canadians pay. The only items that seem to be around the same price are chips and chocolate. Prior to coming back to Canada, I bought some diesel oil for my truck. The cost at Walmart in the US was 25 US trash tokens, which equals 32 Canadian trash tokens. The cost at the Canadian Tire for the exact same oil and quantity was 65 US trash tokens. While I understand that overhead, labor, etc. costs in Canada are higher, there is no way that double the cost can be justified. The problem is that so many elbows up Canadians have never left Canada or traveled, so they think that Canada is such a great country when in reality it is severely lacking in so many ways. By the way, the US is a great place to visit, friendly people, and never once did we feel unsafe. Don't let the liberals and legacy media tell you otherwise, and it's not working anymore. That's why all of this stuff is changing. That's why you've got to get these grocery store. They're trying to do government grocery stores in Canada. The food professor warning that Globe and Mail's article on it supporting the idea of government grocery stores on the premise that we've tried everything else and it didn't work. Well, have we? Interparental trade barriers, supply management, industrial carbon tax, poor logistics are still there. Retail price distortions are still there. The overwhelming red tape is still there. Tried everything, not quite. And that stuff is just not going to work anymore as an excuse. The censorship isn't going to work. We're seeing the political situation much more clearly. That's why you've got these robberies in Canadian grocery stores. It's the poverty, obviously. And the poverty is what's leading to come to church and learn how to kill yourself because there's no other way for them to go. And we're seeing this play out across America as well. And it's why, again, coming back to what's going on in this economic war, coming back to my frame here about economics and persuasion and how we're going to get to the end here with the ables versus the all eyes. What we're going to see going forward with this economic incentive debate and with all of this change is that the economics of the Abel's side that's betting on Bitcoin, betting on increased energy production, betting on cattle ranching, and all of these endeavors are going to win because what we can see is the human brain of Bitcoiners and their ability to understand that the entire economic system is shifting. It's not just fiat. It's not just printing, it's the messaging, it's the persuasion, it's the food. All of these things are changing at once. That's why yesterday, you got all these people, oh, Sailor is selling his Bitcoin, right? Oh, he's selling his Bitcoin. He's abandoning us, right? And BitPain says it's very important that you understand how terminally boomer-brained TradFi is. They don't think Bitcoin is a real asset that could back real liabilities. In the backs of their minds, they are convinced it will one day simply collapse to zero if someone looks at it the wrong way. Sailor backing billions of dollars of credit instruments with an internet Ponzi coin does not strike them as a serious thing. Sailor must sell some of his Bitcoin for that same reason. Some bewildered 19th century guy with a twirly mustache made his secretary stand on the Woolworth building before he believed steel could support a 55-story building that supported the weight of a full human. Bewilderment. And that's why people are bewildered at this announcement, which is yesterday, which is that, of course, people have been saying, and it's what I've been saying, once you get peace, once you remove the cartel and oil, once you get to that point, you're going to see Trump go two directions. Those two directions are hard on the economy, hard on the golden age, hard on American 250th anniversary celebrations to create that contrast against the UK and the fiat system and all of its economic extraction. You're going to see him go hard into production, hard into this new bimetallic system of one money for consumption, one money for saving, and you're going to see a complete and total overhaul of the US economic system. So it doesn't take a genius to realize that the White House executive director says July 4th is the target day to sign the Clarity Act, that the 250th anniversary of the United States will be its Independence Day from this British system. The new financial system is just about ready. G-Money laughing on the 250th year of 1776. Who would have thunk that Bitcoin is digital 1776, take part in one of the most exciting technological revolutions in modern history. It's so big. Think of it as big as you can get. That is Trump hyping it up last year at the Blockworks Summit. I will play the video of Trump here because it is important on this day. It will be July 4th. That's why you're also going to be hearing news that day about the Bitcoin stockpile, the strategic reserve, because the new system is coming online.
I've also called on Congress to pass landmark legislation creating simple, common sense rules for stablecoins and market structure. With the right legal framework, institutions large and small will be liberated to invest, innovate, and take part in one of the most exciting technological revolutions in modern history. It's so big, it's, I think, as big as you can get. Pioneers like you will be able to improve our banking and payment system and promote greater privacy, safety, security, and wealth for American consumers and businesses alike. You will unleash an explosion of economic growth, and with the dollar-backed stablecoins, you'll help expand the dominance of the U.S. dollar, and many, many years to come, it'll be at the top, and that's where we want to keep it. We only want to keep it at the top, always. I can already see that the energy and passion of the crypto community is the kind of spirit that built our country, and it is exciting to watch as you invent the future of finance. And right here, it's going to be right here in the USA, the good old USA. Together, we will make America the undisputed Bitcoin superpower and the crypto capital of the world. Thank you. Good luck. God bless America.
And, you know, just as that's happening, you got his son announcing yesterday, in just over 8 months since our NASDAQ debut, American Bitcoin mining has rapidly scaled to 7,300 plus Bitcoin, nearly 90,000 mining machines, and an amazing 52.4% gross margin. Today, we rank as the 16th largest Bitcoin public Bitcoin treasury in the world, and we're adding to our holdings every day. In Q1 2026, we delivered our strongest quarter yet, 817 Bitcoin mined at 47% cost discount, while growing our reserves by over 1,600 Bitcoin. That is what the president's family is up to as we come to this new system. And again, what did I say was going to happen once the Iran war, which need to be timed for Trump and the administration getting control of the Federal Reserve, which is really the switch that needs to be flipped to get to this new system. Why the timing is now just perfect, right? Here's the Bitcoin therapist saying this is what the next few weeks look like. The new Fed chair is coming, Clarity Act finalized on Independence Day, U.S. Bitcoin mining, U.S. Bitcoin reserve news, PMI 50 for the 50-week moving average for, I don't know, whatever, 4 months. Lower interest rates, the war in Iran ending, strategy buying billions, and you want me to be bearish. Can't do it. Can't do it, right? We get the great Tom Cruise, our greatest diplomat and statesman, dancing here like the, what was this again? The, Harvey Weinstein. This is him doing the Harvey Weinstein, I guess, dance. So again, that's why this stuff is just more persuasive. That's why you're going to see this new financial system come online, and why, again, you're going to see everything now become very clear in American politics going forward after this. It's all going to be communism versus this new political system. That's why the Obamas are going to have to go with the old communist top-down messaging, but it ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. We're seeing it more and more. The LA mayor case is a perfect example of the new messaging and the new political discussions and dialogue that is coming around to America. This is going to spread throughout the country right after the Los Angeles votes. Ryan Peterson here reminding us the Palisades fire being an act of left-wing terrorism is not being discussed nearly enough, but it is, and you're going to see more of it because of the amount of attention that you're seeing from Spencer Pratt. And indeed, Republican voters, primary voters, want a total and unrelenting political war to be waged on the Democrat Party, and they're done with feckless losers in their own party who do not understand what time it is. It's time to make money. That's what time it is, and money will talk. Money is the answer here. That's why all of these audits are so effective. You're going to see nothing but the audits again, as I predicted. You're going to see audit straight through the summer, straight to the midterms. This Ohio case is a big one. This is such a wild statistic in Columbus that has only 6,273 elderly people on Medicaid, but a single landlord in Columbus has 288 home healthcare businesses as tenants that have billed Medicaid 250 million US trash tokens. Their offices are empty. It's going to be more of this stuff the whole way through. The case in the Palisades question is going to blow open even more, just as you heard no one talking about the accountability around it. It looks like we're going to get those stories as well. Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom just played their last card to avoid discovery in the Palisades fire lawsuit and lost. So this happened yesterday. The California Court of Appeal just denied the writ petitions filed by the state of California and the city of Los Angeles. The city and state must now they gotta hand over the information and hand over the files. So that's what they're saying here. We're going to discovery. We're going to see the deleted Mayor Bass texts and all city and state attempts to manipulate, conspire, and manipulate information and data to avoid accountability. I believe the only question after we review all discovery will become whether this fire was merely gross negligence or criminal negligence on behalf of our leadership. They tried everything to avoid this moment, but it isn't going to work. Spencer Pratt is just too effective. Here's someone mentioning it. I'm neither Republican nor Democrat, and this isn't a political channel. That said, the LA mayor's race is drawing global attention for its bold AI power, highly creative campaign ads. They're on another level. Is this a glimpse of the future of political campaigns everywhere, or maybe even Hollywood? And I think you're seeing both of them. Again, we played this one the other day. There's a new one today. This is Saca la basura. Latino por Prat. We like Latino por Prat. Here's the new one. It's also excellent. They're taking on the Hitler video in this one. You know, the famous Hitler gets bad news and freaks out. So he's copied it and applying it to Mayor Bass with great effect. And I think this is, as many people are saying, a sign of things to come, a sign of where politics and political persuasion is headed, a sign indeed of what you're going to see going forward, I think, anyway. And here we see this new video.
Production value, it looks like $100 million film.
I thought I already shared it. I'll start it over.
That a Spencer Pratt political ad is going viral.
I already saw it. The one where he's crying about his house. Give me a break with the sob stories. It's time to move on.
No, ma'am. This is a new ad, and it seems to be more powerful.
What do you mean, another ad?
It already has millions of views on X. And ma'am, the production value, it looks like $100 million film.
Where are they getting that kind of money? I personally shut down every damn studio in this city.
Ma'am, it was an AI filmmaker.
What do you mean it was an AI filmmaker? Comms. Polling. MIMWG2 SLBBTQQEIA. Stay. Everyone else, out. Everyone in the entertainment industry is supposed to be out of Los Angeles. What even was the point of the fires? Wasn't the Kamala endorsement supposed to seal the deal? This is meant to be an easy win for me.
It moved 0.3 points, ma'am.
The race might be lost. But if you think I am giving up this office, you are sorely mistaken.
Just devastating stuff. So I think Karen Bass is going to just be out of the question. I don't think she's going to make it to election day. I think this is going to unravel really quickly for her. She can't take the heat, I don't think. She got completely wiped out yesterday by Spencer Pratt in the debates. He had a just great time hammering both of them. Both candidates were there. So here's Spencer Pratt and what he got up to yesterday. And again, it comes back to persuasion, and his persuasion frame is just much better. And their ability to conjure any kind of standing or following or get people on their side through all of their failure and poverty just isn't going to work. Spencer Pratt just has their number. And I think once Bass is out, it's going to be this other lady. And I'm not sure Bass is going to drop out. I just don't see her surviving any of this. This stuff is just too difficult for her persuasion level. And I think you're going to get this here from Pratt. And again, go back to, she's this other one, Nitya Raman, obviously a Harvard person, got all this money to help homeless people, hasn't helped anyone. It's not going to work.
Authority with this homelessness. She was the third most powerful person in city council. She runs the homeless housing thing. She acts like this is just Mayor Bass. First off, inside safe. I like to say inside safe makes all of us outside unsafe. The reality is no matter how many beds you give these people, they are on super meth. They are on fentanyl. The DEA statistic says 93% of this is a drug addiction problem. Nithya, Councilwoman Robin's plan for treatment first, I will go below the Harbor Freeway tomorrow with her, and we can find some of these people she's going to offer treatment for. She's going to get stabbed in the neck. These people do not want a bed. They want fentanyl or super meth. These ideas cost us over $400 million to house for 70, what did you say? 3,000 people for $400 million? This is an absolute failure for both of them. They're a team.
So, Councilmember Rahman, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I want to just say to everybody who's watching today, you're going to watch today as Mayor Bass and Spencer Pratt attack me because they want to run against each other in the general election. Each of them thinks that running against each other is what's going to help them win. And they don't want to run against me because my ideas, which are based on real results in my district, which are based on real data, a real analysis of the system, and a focus on accountability and using every dollar as effectively as possible, which we have done in my district. I want to take this citywide. This is why this is happening today.
Councilmember Rahman, we're out of time. I'm going to give each of you 30 seconds to respond to this.
I would
Mr.
love
Pratt,
to
I'm going to
start.
start with you, and then I'm going to go to Mayor Bass.
First off, Mayor Bass and I are definitely not working together. I blame this person for burning my house and my parents' house in my town and all my neighbors down. I am not working with Mayor Bass. Second off, if I wanted to run against anybody, it would be the council member who is terrible. Mayor Bass has at least been a mayor for almost 4 years and has, as she talked about earlier, the unions, all the unions endorse Mayor Bass. You think it's easier to run against the incumbent mayor with all the unions or a random city council member who's been a failure for 6 years? I would much rather run against Councilwoman Rahman. Thank you very much.
Very much, Mr. Pratt.
And he had a good takedown of her here. This one's pretty funny. Again, just superior communication. Here he jester mogs her, as they're saying, as the kids are saying these days. Neural Deli saying Spencer Pratt jester mogs her. You need jester mogging. She didn't do any jester mogging, so high persuasion there. And then here their non-citizen vote stuff yesterday. Also not anyone winning anything here, no one persuading except Pratt. He's playing on a different level altogether. And I expect this stuff to keep working, and I expect him to I don't know about win, but I think it's possible. I think with the amount of attention he's getting, I think with the kind of failures, the poverty we're seeing from the communists, that the persuasion game is changing, and everyone worried about affordability, everyone seeing the scam with illegals and money going their way and welfare system corruption. I think this is sort of the everything at once video clip that I think will, in the end, decide what's actually going to happen in LA. And I don't think it looks good for the communists.
This is a yes or no question and answer. So there's an LA council member. He wants voters to decide. He is saying that non-citizens, should they be allowed to vote in local elections? Is this a yes or no, Mr. Pratt?
No.
Mayor Bass?
It depends. It's not a yes or no.
Depends on what?
Well, first of all, when you say non-citizens, it doesn't mean they're here illegal. It doesn't mean they're undocumented. They could have green cards. They could be here perfectly legal. Sure. And there's a lot of states and cities that do that on very, very local elections. We have to see what the councilman is proposing.
Councilmember Bremen.
Yeah, I would say, again, it does depend. In other places, School boards have
was a yes or no question.
non-citizens,
Yes or no?
non-citizens who vote
Mr. Fred, I have a question for
who are
you. You
residents who
told
vote for
NBC
these.
News.
So their word salad stuff doesn't work. It's not persuasive. This is tie the whole audit question into the matrix here and use that to determine how people are going to think about this in a few weeks and in a few months. Their word salad is zero. It's more Obama word salad stuff. There's no one who can launder this information. It's just not going to work. The other big plan going forward, of course, is that the voter ID thing, right? The voter ID thing, of course, we'll see what happens. But again, take this economic question, take all of this good news you're going to see from Trump from July 4th on, the Clarity Act, the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, oil and gas that's going to be so cheap, it's going to break, all of our assumptions and our molds about how this stuff works. We're getting a lot of things that are going to be economically altered between now and the midterms, and why I continue to predict that this Los Angeles question is just a harbinger of things that are about to come, and why there's just no persuasion to stop what I think is coming. And in the same way that we know nothing stops this train in Bitcoin, nothing can stop what is coming in terms of economic success in America and what it's going to mean politically and how much it's going to change the system. Here's Tariff Man saying everyone is wrong about the midterms. Republicans aren't losing the House. They're going to expand it. Everyone is acting like this is a usual midterm where a swing is likely. Not this time. Let's start by taking a look at California. Like I said, a Republican is leading the gubernatorial primary. A Republican is competitive in the LA mayor's race. In California, 6 months ago, that sentence would have been a punchline. 6 months ago, I was saying it. 6 months ago, I was telling you California was going to change. If you get out the illegal voting, if you get out the voter fraud, I don't think California is actually Democrat. The massive wins in Indiana and Ohio tonight are by Trump-selected candidates show the voters are happy with President Trump. Nearly every single Trump-endorsed candidate won, and won historically big. You cannot downplay this heading into the midterms. There's all of the winners. The Supreme Court decision to eliminate racist maps changes the game decisively in Republicans' favor. Districts with voters held hostage by Democrat machine politics will now have fairer and more equal representation by Republicans, an overnight Republican win. The Democrats are still cheating in New England, where 21 congressional seats remain all Democrat, even though there are tens of millions of Republicans across these states. The situation here can only get better, and it likely will. The reality is the never-Trumpers and the donor class thought for years that Tucker and Fuentes were the Trump base. They aren't. Now they are endorsing Democrats. The real base, the silent majority, is locked in and energized. I believe that. Perhaps most importantly, Democrats are lost. They have no unified message. They don't know whether to embrace wokeism or dial it down. They don't know whether to pursue abundance or pursue degrowth. And their voters are becoming more socialistic, more third worldist. Hassan Piker, in his own words, I'm a harm reduction voter. I'm a lesser evil voter. Therefore, I would vote for Hamas over Israel every single time. None of it makes sense. It's just not persuasive. The reality is the Democrat Party has become a purely oppositional party. The one amplified policy that has come out of the party during the Trump admin is a data center moratorium. In other words, Dems are anti-Trump, anti-Israel, and anti-tech. Not going to work. Not going to work. Everyone praying for a 2018 rerun is going to eat their shorts. The economy is kicking thanks to Trump and tariffs. Republicans will win the House. They hold the Senate. The administration will govern from strength through 2028. And I think that's what I'm seeing happening. And again, going back to the right wing and the MAGA division, exactly. Tucker and Fuentes were the symbol for right-wing persuasion about how our left-wing persuasion about how fucked up right-wingers were and Trump supporters were. That's not going to work. That's not going to work anymore. Before Nick rose to fame and left Richard Spencer as a right-wing boogeyman to attack Republicans with, in a stunning coincidence, when that angle of attack stopped working, Richard backed Kamala for president. Now Nick is following the same playbook. I spy a pattern. It's quite a coincidence that both of these guys gave media the most offensive quotes they could dream up which the media then wrapped around the necks of Republicans at every turn, only for both of them to support Democrats once they were no longer useful for this purpose. Strange, isn't it? If I didn't know any better, I'd almost think it was by design that they ended up in this role. For any young man who reflectively wants to defend Nick, what has he done for you? How has he used his influence to benefit your life? Because I know what I've done. I got the crazy trainings out of millions of workplaces. I ended DEI programs and bonuses that discriminated against you. I'm suing one of the largest companies on earth, so AI won't lie in the way they did about me. I stopped your woke HR lady from shoving pride down your throat. I got laws passed to make states safer and saner. I fund pro-Christian plus right-wing activism. No, I'll even say what I've been doing, right? Compared to Nick Fuentes. I've been consistently telling you that Bitcoin plays into this role for incentives, for charting what's going on economically around the world, for understanding how the persuasion game is working. Nick Fuentes told you he likes fiat and sold all the Bitcoin that was given to him in 2020 by that French guy, and doesn't hold Bitcoin, thinks Bitcoin can be shut off by the government at any time, and then it's stupid and all that stuff. So who does he sound like when he talks about Bitcoin? Who does Tucker sound like when he talks about Bitcoin? Like Professor Zhang, right? They're all the same. Professor Zhang giving out his free egg wolls. I give you free egg woll if you find me the Bitcoin server. None of these people with their takes on Bitcoin should be taken seriously at all anymore. I think you get a sense of what exactly they're about. My point is much more than this, he says. Some of us are actually doing things to materially benefit life. People like Nick are concerned with benefiting themselves, and they use, I don't know what he's thinking, and they use rhetoric to relate to you to feel like you're on their side. But seriously, what has he done aside from entertaining you with some of his antics? Nothing. The man can't lead a family, doesn't have kids, doesn't even want a wife, sus, and he's done nothing for the vast majority of you. And I think it's an important way to understand that. That's why Bitcoin is a great sorting hat for all of these types. The minute he came out with his Bitcoin take, I told you to be careful, because you are not dealing with someone who should be taken literally. You are dealing with someone who's throwing curveballs, throwing spin, and it's becoming more and more obvious, and it is less and less persuasive, which is the good news. Speaking of spin, we got a straight talker in the house here.
You went with speaking of spin. I was hoping you'd say speaking of good news. Come on, Nolan, killing me, brother.
Well, I didn't say you were spinning. I said you're a straight talker. Come on.
Fair enough. I was just hoping you'd call me good news. But how are you guys doing this morning?
We're loving life, my man. We had a great time. We were talking all about the latest on Mark Carney in Canada. He's up to no good again. And we talked a little bit about the beef cartel in America. We talked a little more about Obama's comments yesterday. A lot of people talking about those. We were talking about their persuasiveness or lack thereof. And we were setting up more Nick Shirley stuff. Not Nick Shirley, more Spencer Pratt stuff. No, we finished talking about Nick Fuentes. Yeah, it's Spencer Pratt persuasion. I don't know if you saw the new video. It's the Hitler video.
Oh, I haven't. I saw him do they had like a debate or something.
Yeah,
he was crushing from what I saw.
Yeah, absolutely crushed them. Yeah,
they had no response. I was like, geez, did they even prepare for this?
So I made a prediction.
Ooh.
Karen Bass is not going to even make it to the election day, and that it's just going to be him and that city councilor.
She looked overmatched, the city councilor.
Yeah. She came up with a theory that Spencer Pratt and Karen Bass were colluding because
I saw that. He's like, I hate her. He's like, I think she's terrible at her job. I would be colluding.
Burn my house down and my parents' house down. No, I'm not working with it. And it's the run again so that he's like, if I have to choose, it's not the incumbent mayor, it's the loser city councilor that nobody knows. And she's like,
yeah, she was a deer in headlights there. That was it was pretty great. I mean, man, I got to give him, he's got some chutzpah up there, more than I would have thought. So another thing happened yesterday, which was the state of California and the city of LA had tried to stop a criminal investigation into the Palisade fire cover-up.
or purported cover up. We don't know.
Yeah,
but it failed, which means there will be discovery, which means that all of her audio tapes, which we did hear about, which I don't know what they mean, but it's when she's trying to tell a councilman as the fire was starting, don't worry about it. When this aide to her office was telling her that the water reservoirs were too low, she's saying, just be patient, you'll understand soon. Now, I have no idea what it means. It could be a very normal explanation, but in a political race, no one is going to interpret it normally. So everyone is going to read into it, and whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. She's going to have to deal. That's why I don't think she's going to make it. She's going to have to deal with everything in the lead up to the Palisades fire becoming relitigated. It's just too much of a headwind for her. So I anticipate it is just going to be Spencer Pratt against this other one.
Yeah, well, I can't wait for the reviving of the new season of The Hills with Spencer Pratt as the mayor. It's going to be great.
I was telling my wife was asking me yesterday what I spoke to you about, and I said Spencer Pratt on the show, and she says, "Oh yeah, he's running for it's so funny that he did a heel turn." And I said, Hank said the same thing. I didn't know anything about his past. She goes, "Yeah, he was like the ultimate villain and all."
People hated him.
People hated him, but it's all wrestling. You get to see the kid now. It's he's an actor of sorts, and his high quality videos. So he did the Hitler gets bad news. You know that meme when
I don't know if I know that one.
Yeah, it's like it's all in German and people just redo the subtitles.
Oh, okay.
He completely remade the video. It's like Hitler gets bad news and then freaks out, and all of the
I'll have
people
to check it out.
Yeah,
That sounds
good. It's from a probably a 20-year-old movie about Hitler.
I mean, say what you want about AI. It's making the social media stuff great between this and Iran.
Making the politics a lot better. We're enjoying it.
It is.
So what are we talking about on your show next?
We got a big one today. We're actually going to be joined by Prince Philip to break down some of the news this morning. Yeah, so it's exciting. We're going to be talking, I think, I'm not sure if we'll be talking about it specifically, but today on the show, we got the Epstein suicide note, which was a little playful as far as suicide notes go. He said no fun in all caps.
Yeah, I didn't buy it.
No, the hantavirus situation on that ship. I don't know anyone's still going on cruises. That's a terrifying situation for me. The Trump ballroom, the GameStop situation with Cohen selling his own stuff on eBay to fund the purchase. Like, it was funny stuff today. It's a fun day.
All right. Well, can't wait, everyone.
I'll let you guys wrap up, and I'll see you on there in just a couple. Thanks.
Amazing. All right, guys, you can come here. Prince and myself and Hank talk all about funny news in America, and it'll be a good time. I see Eastside Tony in the house. Good morning, Vietnam. We love it. Does Iran have a choice in agreeing to the peace proposal? I don't think so. BTC pleb. I think it's all over there. I am Double B. Hello. How you doing? The artist formerly known as, indeed, Prince stabs in the taxpayer sensitive area. His account was suspended on eBay. Escape the Matrix. So good. All right, everyone. Heading back to, free Bitcoin. Hitler video was killer, indeed. All right, folks. Thanks for all the comments today. I appreciate. I love seeing a long list of live chat comments. I will have a look at them later. Sorry, I'm not going to get to all of them today. But indeed, thanks for coming. I'm about to play the logo and the thanks for watching screen. There you go. Thanks for watching. You hear it now. Peace out, everyone. I appreciate it. Oh, I made a mistake. I'm back because I just saw that Lee J369 regular time tomorrow with Tom Luongo. I think also we had Citadel Daniel saying, can't wait for Tom Luongo tomorrow. We had to move it to next week. Yeah, he just told me yesterday he had a scheduling conflict. So that's why I didn't bring it up today. Pardon me, everyone. I hope you got this. I will tweet it out. It's next week. It's not tomorrow. So everyone who's all excited about Tom Luongo, so am I. It'll have to wait 1 week. Sorry about that, everyone. Peace out.